Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 5-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings. Before we get into it, if you enjoyed the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. And I have released an NBA DFS package over here on Patreon where you can get access to my premium NBA projections, my NBA data sheet, my player stats, team stats, play context stats, my core plays, injury impact insights, NBA Discord chat access, a bunch of different tools I've been putting together for you guys at an affordable price. And more than you're going to be able to get anywhere around the industry. I've been playing DFS since about 2016, so I built this package to include all the stuff that you would get elsewhere at a cheaper price tag, more affordable, as opposed to paying these big sites $40 a month for a subscription. I've built all these tools for you guys to be useful resources and at an affordable price. So that's the goal, to contribute to you guys, and I appreciate your support tuning into these videos. The support recently has been tremendous. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And before we get into breaking down this slate, I will say you can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS, where I've started a little bit of a tradition I have been mentioning in my videos. Every night I'll be tweeting out my top value play on the slate. Last night, I had the wrong one pulled up there. That was Christian Wood the previous night. Last night it was Nito for the Washington Wizards. No Russell Westbrook. I really like Nito after I heard that he had got the start at only a 3-1 price tag. Now, of course, that wasn't really a hot take, but any edge that you can get, you'll take, and it's free information. So I'll give you my top projected play, and he went out there and put on a really good performance. He had 40.5 DK points, and then another thing I want to start doing is showing you guys, which lineup I ended up going with. Typically, early on in this season, I have only been playing one lineup and entering it into different tournaments. So this was the lineup I went with last night. I had Steph Curry at the top, Bradley Beal, Reggie Bullock, Montrezl Harrell, Bismack Biyombo, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nito, and I was able to cash kind of by the skin of my teeth. This ownership showing you the big $15 tourney over there on DraftKings. So I really liked Steph Curry and Zach LaVine in that game. I thought they were going to get the majority of the usage in that Golden State and Chicago game. I really like that game overall. I'd say, reflecting on last night, my biggest regret, two things. I didn't play the Chicago front court in Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr., who I was high on, and I didn't play Markieff Morris and Kyle Kuzma and Marc Gasol, that Lakers front court, which I was also high on. I went with Montrezl Harrell. Unfortunately, he performed the worst out of the bunch. But yeah, I was able to cash last night. Just want to start showing you guys. I know if you're going to be trusting someone, you might as well see that they're able to produce as well. So I'm going to be reviewing my lineups with you guys as well. So that's what I went with last night. And with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and start breaking down this one. We got a 5-gamer. DraftKings has put $150K up for grabs in the big $15, so they're kind of making it worth it on this small slate to dig into it. And it all starts in this first game, Detroit at Atlanta. It's kicking it off at a 7:30 lock time tonight. At the top, Trae Young at 9.5. This game comes in with a 225.5 over/under. A 9.5 point spread for these Atlanta Hawks, and that's because the Detroit Pistons will be without Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, which is going to open up a bunch of value on the Detroit side. Before we get into the Detroit side, we might as well talk about some of my favorite plays on the Atlanta side. Clint Capella is expected to be back in this one. If we get the confirmation that he's a full go and he's not going to be limited minutes, he is way too underpriced at 5.9, taking on Detroit. So he would become a very appealing play. We just need some confirmation that he's not going to be limited to start things out. If he's a full go, I love him. Trae Young at the top at 9.5 is a decent play. I'm not sure that I want to go there on this slate. We'll have to go see as we continue along the slate, just because it is a 9.5 point spread and a 225.5 over/under compared to another game that we'll be covering that's a 237.5 over/under type of thing. So not the highest total, and at a 9.5 price tag, he's going to have to perform pretty well to pay that off. So we'll see if there's some other options as we're continuing. I don't think Trae Young's going to be a top priority of mine. Jeremiah Grant on this Detroit side is going to be a tremendous play. Put up a big performance last time, putting up 52.5 DK points, and that was with their team fully healthy. So now with no Blake Griffin, I expect him to get some more usage in that 5,900. He's a great play. Mason Plumlee, same rule applies. No Blake Griffin, so expect him to get a lot more usage, a lot more rebounds at only 5.7, taking on Atlanta. Clint Capella, unfortunately, coming back will kind of make the matchup a little worse, but, being that they're they got some wounded soldiers, and he's going to be relied on heavily. He is a viable play. And then there's so many on this Detroit side just because, with these guys being out, that opens up so much usage. You could play DeLon Wright at 4-6. I think he's going to be a good value play taking on Atlanta. He's a great play, a good fantasy point producer. If you knew him in his Toronto days, he just didn't get the opportunity. Josh Jackson's a guy that's been a very good fantasy point producer so far early on in the season. When he's been getting minutes, he had 29 and 19. He put up 32 and 20 DK points at only 4-2. He could definitely blow away that price tag pretty easily. You have Julio Okafor looks like he's going to be out, which is going to open up more minutes for Sekou Doumbouya if he's good to go and healthy. So Sekou Doumbouya, another value play in this one. So I think you get the trend here. We're going to have a lot of places we can go. We can go to Svi. Svi Mikhailuk is a guy who's a very good three-point shooter, and at only 3-6 on DraftKings, he could pay off his price tag very easily. First 2 games, he shot 1 for 8 and 1 for 6 from behind the three-point arc. I don't think that's going to continue. So you could definitely be playing him. And then we'll have to keep an eye on some news from the Detroit beat writers, etc., because there are some more guys down here that could possibly maybe get some playing time. And if they do, I would have interest in them. A guy like Rodney Magruder, a guy like Wayne Ellington. If we find that they're going to be able to get some minutes off the bench, their minimum salary. So I think you get the gist of it. This Detroit team offers a lot of value tonight, and it's definitely somewhere you're going to want to be looking. Yeah, if you're asking me my top plays right now, I don't have my final projections ran, but of course you have to play Mason Plumlee and Grant because they're just going to be relied on so heavily, and then DeLon Wright and Jackson. The rookie and Killian Hayes, I'm not really sure how his ownership is going to pan out in this one. He hasn't really produced the best fantasy-wise early on in the season, so I think I'm going to look to fade him just because he's 4-2, and I can just drop down to a Savi at 3-6 or a Sekou Doumbouya at 3-4, that kind of thing. Maybe I'll change my mind later on that in the day, but early on, first look, I think that I might be fading him because people are going to automatically want to start him just because he's getting the start, and he hasn't really been a good fantasy point producer early on in the season. So I'd rather go to those other guys that I know are proven, can shoot from behind the arc, and give me some good upside on DraftKings. Next game, Memphis taking on Brooklyn. Same time, 7:30 start time. Kevin Durant is questionable, so we have to keep an eye on that one. If he's out, of course, that's going to get a big bump to Kyrie Irving. And then we did see Spencer Dinwiddie exit the game last night, so if he's out, he would open up even some more value on this team. So, assuming Kevin Durant's out, of course, that gives a big boost to Kyrie Irving. It gives a big boost to Karis LeVert. It gives a big boost to Joe Harris. So all those guys would become a priority. And then, of course, Taurean Prince at 3-2. He got a price down to 3-1. He would become a really good play on the cheap end as well. So some pending injury news there. This game does come in with a high total, as I had mentioned. 237.5 over under. 7.5 point favorites are the Brooklyn Nets. And, of course, that line could change depending upon Kevin Durant's status and that kind of thing. And Spencer Dinwiddie. So, unfortunately, there's not a lot cemented in stone right now. We're going to have to wait on the injury news. But if everyone's in, I would be looking to target Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Spencer Dinwiddie, but a little more light. If Kevin Durant and Spencer Dinwiddie are out, I'm really going to like the likes of Kyrie Irving, Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, all the guys that are going to soak up the usage with them out, because in such a high total game, if we can get a few of these bodies removed from the rotation, I'm going to really like those guys. So I'm honestly kind of hoping Kevin Durant and Spencer Dinwiddie are out, and we can jam in some Kyrie Irving, some Karis LeVert, some Joe Harris, Taurean Prince, that kind of deal, even maybe some Bruce Brown and some TLC. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. As far as on the Memphis side, my favorite plays are definitely Ja Morant, Jonas Valanciunas. At the top, these guys are the top fantasy point producers in this offense at 8-3 and at 7-7. I do think that they're underpriced for the over-under in the matchup. I think these guys can definitely get there at that price tag. And speaking of underpriced, Dillon Brooks is extremely underpriced at 5-5. He's my favorite of the bunch as far as, in relationship to his price tag. At only 5-5, Dillon Brooks, a very good three-point shooter, can get hot from behind the arc and very easily outperform this 5.5 price tag. We've seen him go out there and put up 29 and 33 DK points so far. I don't exactly understand this price tag, but I'm not complaining because he's going to be a great option. So that is my overall breakdown in this one. Moving further along to Utah at OKC, starting at 8 o'clock. At the top, we got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This game starts, it comes in with a 220 over-under, so not exactly the fastest-paced game. 8-point underdogs are the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Utah Jazz. So Utah expected to win this game, pretty easily. As far as who I'm interested in, I'm really not interested in anyone at the top because I think they're too priced up for this matchup in this pace. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, not really all that interested in them. Where my interest does increase is once we get down to this mid 5K range where you can play guys like a Bojan Bogdanovic or a Jordan Clarkson. Both of these guys can definitely get there at these price tags. Both can shoot it from behind the arc. And both are going to get the appropriate minutes. Bojan, usually a guy that plays in the mid-30s, so you like to see that. And then Jordan Clarkson, the guy that comes off the bench and gets all the usage with the second unit. So he doesn't have to compete with those guys like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in the first unit to get that usage. So, those are the guys I'd be looking to on the cheaper end of this game just because it's not fast-paced. So you got to kind of attack the price tags that can actually get there for you. That's where I'd be looking to. Derek Favors also at 3.9 could be an interesting option. As far as, his role so far, he's only been playing 16, 18 minutes. But at 3.9, he could definitely still get you there. So he might be an interesting cheap option. Is he necessary to go to on this slate where we have so much value with the Detroit guys? Not too sure. I don't really think he's necessarily too necessary. And then you could play Joe Ingles and George Hill as well. Those would be the last two guys I mentioned. Joe Ingles, a guy that's seen 26 and 27 minutes and can absolutely stroke it from behind the arc. He's only 4.7. He could definitely get you there. And George Hill, a guy that's in a starting role now with OKC. Last time out, he was only 3.4. He was very popular. He put up 34 DK points. And this time he comes in at 4.5. So he did get a slight bump in price, but at only 4.5, he could definitely still get you there. It's just a matter of how he's going to pan out to these other options as we get some injury news released, etc. Houston at Denver. This one, they come in with a, let's see, right now a 223.5 over under for this game, a 7.5 point spread in favor of the Denver Nuggets. For the Houston Rockets, they continue to be without John Wall, without DeMarcus Cousins, without Eric Gordon, without Ben McLemore. So a short-handed team. Last time out, I had said I was very, very high on James Harden taking on the Portland Trailblazers. At his price tag, he was only 10.9, and I said this guy could literally shoot 30 times. He ended up shooting 22 times, but he did put up 44 points, 17 assists, 4 rebounds. So, definitely didn't disappoint, and I was really high on him. This time around, it's a little different because, Denver isn't exactly a good defensive matchup, and especially when Denver's playing at home, they're a very, very tough matchup. So it's not exactly a full green light like last time, no brainer. However, with the Detroit value opening up and with the fantasy point per minute production that James Harden supplies, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up getting to him just because of how blatantly obvious we have value for the Detroit team kind of being depleted. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. And then, of course, we have the news of Kevin Durant and Spencer Dinwiddie, which would prioritize a guy like Kyrie Irving a lot more for me. So, I hate to be broad, but right now I'm not exactly sure. I would say, even though the matchup's tough, I'm probably going to be playing a lot of James Harden just because of all the value with Detroit, as mentioned. It's like if he's that easy to fit in with how many fantasy points he produces so easily, and with there not really being a whole ton of mid-range options that I've mentioned a few. Like Dylan Brooks is the first one that comes to mind. Wouldn't be surprised if I'm paying down and then paying up for James Harden just because how good of a fantasy point producer he is. Nikola Jokic at 9.8, another great option. Guy that's a fantasy point per minute beast. He's put up 2 big games early on in the season, 42 and 38 minutes. You love to see that. 74 and 51 DK points at 9.8. He could definitely blow away that price tag, taking on the likes of Christian Wood, who's a good young talent, but I'm not really too concerned about him on the defensive side of things. So, speaking of Christian Wood, he was a guy that I was really high on last time out. He was only 5.9 though, and he did get a price bump up to 7.2. So with only center position eligibility, it'll be interesting to see if I'm still interested in him. So far on the slate, it's not like there's any real good centers. I mean, Nikola Jokic. And then, as mentioned, with all the value, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm paying up for Nikola Jokic. But Christian Wood at 7.2, a guy that's expected to get a ton of usage, and did last time out. He put up 31 points, 13 rebounds. And if you've been playing DFS for a while, if you aren't familiar with this guy, if you've been playing DFS for a while, I hope you are, because in Detroit he was a fantasy point per minute killer, and he's going to continue to be. So definitely could have interest in him. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are and Will Barton are all kind of priced in this mid-range where they could definitely get the job done for you. It's just a matter of which one. I will say there's been reports of Nikola Jokic coming out and publicly saying that he thinks that Michael Porter Jr. needs to get the ball more in this offense, which you love to see. When the main franchise guy in Nikola Jokic is saying this kid's really talented, we need to get him the ball more. That's a good sign for him. So I would have some interest in him. I'm reading into it a little much as far as whether that actually happens. But on a slate like this, a small slate where any edge you can get will help you. And I will say, that those have been the reports coming out of Denver. So I do like Michael Porter Jr. as is at his price tag. And with that being said, maybe they're going to try to get him the ball more, which makes me like him even more. Paul Millsap at 5.3 could definitely get it there for you as well. I think he's a little underpriced for his role. 36 and 22 minutes. If he's able to go out there for about 30 minutes, he's very capable of putting up 30 DK points, as we saw in his first game. He already put up 29.75. And then these other Denver guys, other Houston guys, I'm not going to be quite as interested in, I don't think, as I was last time. I had some interest in Tate, and Sterling Brown was my big one. He kind of let us down to an extent. 37 minutes for Tate last time out. He put up 23 DK points at only 3K. Now that he's up to 41, though, that 23 wouldn't really be quite as appealing. So I'm not really sure I'm looking to go there in this tough matchup against Denver. I'm probably going to be able to narrow down my targets to just the main guys that are getting all the usage, like a Christian Wood, like a James Harden. And the really cheap guys that we had interest in last time out, who got a slight bump. I'm not too sure I'll be going there. Sterling Brown at 3.9, David Nwaba at 3.7. Sterling Brown saw 20 minutes last time out, but he was only 3.2. I was all over him at that price tag at 3.9. Not sure I'm looking to go there when we have some other value in the Detroit guys, etc. So, be interesting to see how my projections grade out at the end of the day. But right now, my lean is to go, James Harden and Christian Wood in this one for sure. On the Denver side, it's really tough because you have all these guys kind of clustered up. But Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Will Barton, all reasonably priced with some upside in this one. And the last game of this 5-game slate is Portland taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis and LeBron James are questionable. I would expect both of them to play in this one. I think that's the lean of the reports. So I'm going to talk about this game as if they're both in. Of course, there is a chance that they're out. If LeBron's out, that's going to give a bump to the guard usage in Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. If Anthony Davis is out, it's going to have the same effect that I had last night. Give a bump to the guys in the front court. Give the guys like Kyle Kuzma, Markieff Morris, and Marc Gasol bumps. So those are the guys you'd be looking to if they're out. I'm going to talk about it as if they're in because I do think they'll be in. Carmelo Anthony on the other side of the game is out. So keep an eye on any more injury news in this one, but that's what we got so far. And this game currently does come in with a there's no total out yet. However, last published line for the spread was the Lakers at 4.5-point favorites. So expect it to be a close game. And in a close game, you could definitely have some interest in these guys because they're going to be relied on more than they would be in a blowout. So Damian Lillard at the top comes in at 10.3. He was only 9.5 last time out, so he did get a big bump. However, whenever taking on a good team, Dame steps up, so I do like him at 10.3, especially if we're able to jam him in with some of the value plays that I've talked about already. And I'm going to have a lot of interest in, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, CJ McCollum, the top 4 guys here, because if it's going to be a close game in competitive games, these guys are the ones that are fantasy point per minute producers. Anthony Davis and LeBron James get a very good matchup taking on this Portland team, who isn't a very good defensive team. So, I look to really like these guys. And LeBron James only played 26 minutes last night taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves because they absolutely blew that team out, which is great because that means he's going to come into this game well rested, which makes me like him even more. CJ McCollum put up a really good game last time out. He was only 7.8. Now he's up to 8.1. However, the way this guy can shoot it from behind the arc, he can definitely get there. 66 DK points last time out. He put up 16 3-point attempts, converted on 9 of them. So, these 4 at the top would be my top priorities for sure. You could play a Dennis Schroeder. You could play a Kyle Kuzma at 6'1", 6'1". Not really going to be top priorities for me at their price tags. I do think that Robert Covington is a little underpriced at 5'2", in a game where they're going to need his defense, his length, and his perimeter shooting. He was 6'3" last time out. He's down to 5'2". He played 38 minutes last time out. Now, of course, that game did go to overtime, but regardless, he's expected to play a lot of minutes in this offense, and at 5'2", I think that he's underpriced for a good wing shooter, a good defensive guy that they're going to need out there. I do like Robert Covington. And then with Carmelo Anthony out, you could look for Rodney Hood to be a little more involved off the bench, so he would be the last guy that I had mentioned at 3'2". No Carmelo Anthony. He got 16 minutes last time out. I could see him getting in the more to the 20 to mid-20 range in minutes, so Rodney Hood could become a good value play at 3'2". Nights. So that is my overall breakdown for this 5-game slate on DraftKings. If you enjoyed the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. Really appreciate the support from you guys recently. Channel's starting to grow, and I'm going to continue to work hard to give you guys some good content. If you're interested in some further content from me over there on Patreon, all the stuff that I've been building, premium projections, play context, figure out which teams are good in transition, which teams have been struggling defensively, all of that fun stuff, that's linked below in the description. That's all from me, guys. Wish you all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.